Well, that military tit for tat you just heard with the Houthis is just part of the problems that are occurring across the Middle East, despite Washington's calls for post-war Palestinian peace. Israel's prime minister refusing to ramp down the war on Gaza and says he opposes a Palestinian state when the war is over. This is coinciding with attacks rising further east, Iran and Pakistan exchanging rocket attacks. Both nations today agreeing to de-escalate the tensions. The region has seen a rise in violence since that surprise attack on Israel by Hamas back on October 7th. Lots to talk about here, so let's go to James Jeffrey. He is the former ambassador to Iraq and Turkey. Ambassador, thanks for being with us tonight. I guess the question that bears asking is the region leaving Israel behind, the region? Because today we hear that phone call between President Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and he says no to a two-state solution, but the U.S. says yes. And the Saudis are also now saying publicly that they can't see this crisis ending without one. So who wins, the White House or Netanyahu?
Dale, I'm actually encouraged by this call. The president hasn't talked to Netanyahu since the 23rd of December, and that was a very unpleasant phone call. This was a much warmer and longer one. The president praised the Israelis for flour transfers through an Israeli port for humanitarian relief, additional maritime efforts on the humanitarian front, and also movement on releasing funds for the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank. The president also twice talked about Israel maintaining pressure on Hamas. That's very important because that basically is signaling indirectly we're not going to push for a ceasefire, which is critically important for all Israelis, not just Netanyahu. To be sure, there is public disagreement on a two-state solution, but you saw the president's remarks. He was modifying his two-state solution in a way that is more acceptable to the Israelis, talking about, well, maybe they won't have an army. That responds to Netanyahu's assertion that Israel has to have security control over all of these areas. I think behind the scenes they're getting closer. They realize they're facing a, as you just said, region-wide threat from Iran. The Saudis, the important thing is they're signaling, hey, if we have progress on the Palestinian issue, we're ready to work closer with Israel. That's quite extraordinary after 3 months of fighting. I think this is okay at this point.
That's what I was going to say. So many people saying the fact that the Saudis are publicly saying what they say is an indication that the region is much different today than it was, for instance, when you were ambassador.
For sure. Everybody recognizes that, first of all, as President Biden has shown, the United States is playing a key security role in the region. The Houthis may still be firing the occasional missile into the sea, but the United States has shown that it will act very, very firmly. It is discouraging Hezbollah, another Iranian ally in Lebanon, from intervening against Israel. And of course, at the end of the day, it is supporting the Israeli operation in Gaza. These are all showing that the United States is willing to deter Iran and its proxies, of which there are many throughout the region. That's a good sign. I would say that this is a good day for the Israeli-U.S.-Arab alliance.
Ambassador, as you know, the United States says they want to keep this crisis contained, but today there was another strike, as you heard Haley Bull say, against the Houthis. The president saying he won't stop attacking the Houthis until they stop harassing vessels in the Red Sea. This is what he had to say yesterday.
Are the airstrikes in Yemen working?
Well, when you say working, are they stopping the Houthis? No. Are they going to continue? Yes.
A lot of experts would be saying, what is your plan B? Because it looks like plan A already looks like this crisis is spilling over, as you mentioned, involving Hezbollah and Lebanon and now Pakistan and Iran. How concerned are you that we are looking at a wider conflict, regardless of what everybody says?
I think the two things to watch are first the Gaza situation, which you and other media have covered very, very closely, the civilian casualties, the hostages, the fighting. That will continue, and Biden signaled that he understands that as long as there's more care on the humanitarian front, which the Israelis are showing flexibility on. So that's in a good place to the extent any war can be in a good place. The Houthis are not being deterred, but their ability to, first of all, attack U.S. ships effectively has been zero up to now and will remain that. We will continue pounding them. They may, for the sake of showing solidarity with Hamas, continue to fire rockets at ships. Ships will be diverted around there. But at the end of the day, the Houthis are risking considerable military degradation if they continue challenging the U.S., and the U.S. will continue pounding them, as the president said, until they stop or until this fighting is over.
Ambassador, how concerned are you that we are looking at a wag the dog scenario unfolding in Israel right now, where Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu realizes that as long as this war continues, so does his presidency in Israel itself?
I've heard that a lot, but the important thing is, while Netanyahu's popularity is very low, in the teens, if not lower, the support of the Israeli people, despite the hostages, for dismantling Hamas, which is the official Israeli military goal, and the military support for that, and their relative success over a fairly brief period in terms of large-scale urban fighting of 3 months, all indicates that the Israelis are behind Netanyahu on continuing the fighting. Now, on these day-after scenarios, on dealing with the Palestinians, the issues that the president is raising, there's a great deal of difference, and I don't think Netanyahu has most Israelis behind him. But the Israeli military, those are very, very, it is an open, liberal society. These are thinking people, thinking soldiers. They're not going to be sent off to die simply for a political reason. Right now, they're all absolutely committed to dismantling Hamas. They've done about half the job. They need to finish it. The Israeli people know they need to finish it. What happens after that, we'll see with Netanyahu and with the political system.
Ambassador, as you know, rhetoric is always running hot in Washington, depending on which side of the political aisle. But there is a question on a lot of people's minds ever since Russia invaded Ukraine, and now we're seeing this flashpoint in the Middle East involving Israel and Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran, and now Pakistan and Iran. People are asking, are we on the brink of World War III? I ask you that question because that is the question I keep getting asked.
I'm almost certain we're not. But Del, I'm old enough to have spent 20 years in the last similar environment, which was the Cold War, including the period of time before '72 when China was allied with the Soviet Union. There, we didn't have a hot war. What we did have is exactly what we're seeing. Situations like Ukraine, situations like Gaza in the Middle East, situations like Taiwan. At the time, it was South Korea, it was Vietnam, it was Hungary, it was Greece in 1948. These pushes against our perimeter. That we are seeing. That's not a function of anything President Biden has done wrong. It's a function that for 30 plus years after the end of the Cold War, we didn't do the necessary things to ensure that, frankly, these foes would return. But now we have to deal with it. It won't be a war, but it's going to be a rocky road.
Ambassador James Jeffrey, as always, thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you, Del.